in India for almost 8-9 years, and then finally joined Amazon, and now moved to Seattle.
So now
So
you are talking from Seattle.
yeah, I'm talking from Seattle,
Great,
and
great.
somehow I was under the impression that I have to take a session tomorrow, but Dinesh just told me that it's today. So I will be giving a brief about the session and DynamoDB, but I'm not fully prepared. So apologies in advance if you guys don't feel that I'm not prepared. But I was thinking that tomorrow is the session, as I have parked my tomorrow week holiday to prepare for the session. But now I'm a
We,
bit unprepared. But since I've used DynamoDB many times, so I can give you a lot of details.
yes, yes. Definitely, we believe in your experience. Whatever experience you have gained, definitely that will be helpful for us.
Yeah,
So
sure,
I
sure.
will request Professor Chaitali Chaudhary ma'am to please conduct the proceedings of the session.
Yep.
Good afternoon, everyone. I want to welcome everyone once again. I was about to give Mudit sir introduction, but Mudit sir already gave a lot of introduction about himself.
Okay.
So I think we should continue with the session right now, if it's fine with everyone.
Yeah, sure.
And
If
while
it's
thanking, I'll give more introduction for Mudit sir. Okay,
yeah, I
so
think
Mudit
I
sir,
can
handle.
continue. Yeah, I can continue with the session. And anyway, I think after the session we can have a question and answer, and I would like to introduce about myself if
It's
you guys
sir,
want.
it's really nice to have our alumni here. It really feels good that our alumni are here. It means taking workshops. It really feels good.
Yeah. And I am also feel very great and obliged to take this workshop and contribute to BIT in any way possible. And I'm looking forward to come and join any alumni meeting in future as well.
Sure, sir. Anytime if you are in India, just come and visit us. It will be really nice to have you in college.
Yeah, sure. Great.
Okay. Thank you, sir. So
Yeah.
you can continue the session, I think.
Yep. I
Hand it
can
to you.
share my screen if I can. There is option to present now. Uh, Let me share my entire screen. Okay. Yeah. Can you see my
Yes, sir.
screen?
It's visible. Yes, sir. It's visible.
Yeah, so it's more on a narrative format, but I can talk about everything one by one. But I want this session to be interactive, so feel free to ask question in between as well, or if anything is not clear. But I hope just a basic question: are you guys familiar with DynamoDB, or have you used DynamoDB before in any of the project or anything? Just feel free to let me know. But basically, DynamoDB is one of the Amazon fully managed NoSQL database. By NoSQL, we mean that it gives you a flexibility to define a limited key patterns and then extend data as and when you want based from the attributes that it supports. We can talk about it later, but it's mostly a NoSQL database. And DynamoDB offloads major burden of database management. Like, for example, when you have worked on any of the relational database, you would have understood that you have to maintain database server, create a table, indexing pattern, create multiple indexes, make sure that server is up and running, manage the scalability, horizontally scale the server, and whenever required, right? And so relational database comes with a lot of managing cost when you want to maintain that server, right? And configuration cost and all, right? DynamoDB offloads all those problems to you so that you can only focus on a business problem and use DynamoDB use whenever you need. So basically, DynamoDB charges you as and when you use it, not from the basis of how much data you store in the DynamoDB, right? You can store technically a infinite amount of data, and only on the query DynamoDB charges you. So basically, DynamoDB charges you on two patterns. One is read capacity unit and write capacity unit. We will talk about these two later, but think of it as a service, which is just giving you a database as a service, right? It is not actual database. It is a database, but it is more like a service where some Amazon service is providing you a database and giving you an APIs to query the database without worrying about in management. And based on read capacity unit and write capacity unit, you will be charged to use the database, right? So this is the basic of DynamoDB, how DynamoDB works and why it is so famous in entire world, and why a lot of microservices, be it a startup, be it a very big service, very big company like Amazon or Netflix, lot of services uses DynamoDB, and it's really a popular product of Amazon. Now, what kind of data is stored, right? It's stored mainly NoSQL data, but in order to use DynamoDB, some basics are required to be clarified before using the DynamoDB, right? So you should know when to use NoSQL versus relational database, RDMS, right? So I think you might have already been aware of when NoSQL should be used over RDMS. So I won't take much of the time here, but I just want to give a brief concept from the industry world, and how in actual companies we decide, or when we work on actual project or business problem to solve for customer, how we decide when to use NoSQL versus RDMS, right? So if we think RDMS, relational database, has a lot of flexibility, right? One of the flexibility of relational database is it gives you a very good flexibility to create queries or execute query, and it is extensible to a lot of new business use cases, right? Why relational database is extensible is because you can always add new tables in relational database. For example, you have a product table, right? So you can have a primary key like product ID and other details about the product in multiple columns, and then you can probably have a table like this, right? Now, say you come up with a new business use case of cart, right? You can always create a separate cart table and relate cart ID to product ID using foreign keys. Right? So this is the flexibility relational database provides. It's always extensible. It can incorporate new business use cases when you extend the business, right? On the other hand, NoSQL is more on the faster side. It can be queried faster with a limited access pattern, right? So let's take why NoSQL is better for certain scenarios over RDMS, and why it is so famous in current world, right? So we can think of a business problem, real world business problem, like a e-commerce site, right? So if we have to create an e-commerce site, there can be a lot of business use cases like product feature, product management, cart feature, order processing, payments, and order tracking, right? Now we think that if this service, if this business problem is designed with a monolithic architecture, right, where every service or a single service connect to a single database, then your query pattern on that database increases a lot, right? So basically, you may have to query that database using an order key or order ID, product ID, cart ID, payment card ID, person name, etc. Right? So that's where if you have a single database which is connecting to multiple services, you need basically some kind of RDMS techniques to access the database along with transactional read and write, right? But think now, if we think and assume that the same business problem is solved using a microservice architecture, right, where each service manages its own database and provides a REST API for effective communication between each other, right? So if we solve the same problem using a product service to manage a product, a separate order service to manage order, separate cart service to perform add to cart operation and other operations, right? And separate payment service to process the payments, right? So each service will have a limited access pattern for its database. For example, order service will only access its database mostly using order key uh, and person name key, right? One or two keys, right? So it has a limited access pattern. And if it wants other additional information about a product, it may call another service using a REST API, which is product service. So in this kind of microservice architecture, NoSQL is favored, and NoSQL is a better pattern because it typically NoSQL DBs are very fast since these are key value based DB, and they can query the data faster. So DynamoDB is one of the NoSQL based DB. And once you have identified your business problem and how you're designing your system, and you identify that NoSQL pattern is good for you, you can always consider DynamoDB with lot of factors that we'll talk about later in this discussion. So before I go deep into DynamoDB, do you have any questions on when to use NoSQL or RDMS, or when DynamoDB should be used? Okay, so let's talk about DynamoDB, right? So I have a working DynamoDB. I have created one table, right, which is a product table, right? And I want this session to be actually hands-on session. So basically I can directly display DynamoDB tables and we can talk about it, right? So say we create a product tables, right? Now, while creating a product table, you just need to define two basic things in DynamoDB. One is a partition key and a sort key. And sort key is not mandatory. So partition key is mandatory, right? Partition key can be anything, a string, number, or a binary. This is type sensitive. You have to define some type to partition key. And we will talk about the reason for partition key. Think of it as a primary key in relational world. But what is the reason behind partition key and how it effectively connects to DynamoDB clusters and partitions, right? We'll talk about it later. So we define two keys, right? And these two keys are much visible in the items, right? So product code is our primary key, primary partition key, and sort key is vendor name here. So these two are fixed. All other things are attributes which are extensible, right? So this is an NoSQL pattern where each row can have n number of attributes. It is not mandatory to have a fixed pattern like RDMS where the columns will be fixed, right? So let's see if we can create multiple attributes, right? So I can create a text where there are two product keys, and I can have a totally separate attribute somewhere like let's talk about card. Let's talk about status. Right. So see, you see, two different rows have entirely two different attributes. So it's always possible to create multiple attributes in NoSQL, keeping partition key and sort key as fixed, right? So this is how DynamoDB attributes and partition key are designed typically. Now there are certain things to be take care in DynamoDB. One is the capacity of DynamoDB. Why DynamoDB is very highly used and how it is auto scalable, right? But typically DynamoDB has two units. One is read capacity unit and write capacity units, right? And you are basically charged based on the usage of these units rather than the amount of data you stored in the table, right? So by default, read capacity unit is 5 units and write capacity unit is 5, but you can extend it to any limit till 40,000. And if you need more than 40,000, you have to get an approval. So if your system is very highly scalable, it processes, it needs some amount of data, right? Millions of records per second, then you may need a approval to get it. But if it is scalable to the limit of 40,000 TPS transactions per second, it can extend it using a default Amazon account, right? So I can extend it to any limit. So this is a provision capacity, right? And we'll talk about provision capacity. What is provision capacity? But this is like a fixed provision capacity where you will be charged for 5,500 read capacity unit every time, right? But to limit your charges, you can also reduce the read capacity unit and configure auto scaling to some limit, right? So basically what auto scaling says is, if you have some read capacity unit, say X value, we can see a metric where it will be more simple. So if your read capacity unit is at 5, what auto scaling tells is, if your system is using 70% of this read capacity unit, DynamoDB will auto scale the read capacity unit so that your traffic can utilize the more demand in the units as and when it grows, right? So you can have something like, you can go from 5 units to 40,000 units based on your traffic. And when your traffic increases, when this scaling actually happens, you would be charged for the amount of usage rather than the fixed charges, right? So this is what we typically follow, where we keep read capacity unit at a minimal unit based on our incoming minimal traffic, and then configure auto scaling. So this is something which is the beauty of DynamoDB, where it supports auto scaling. Other is on demand, where you don't have to provision anything. DynamoDB will identify based on your usage how many units you need and charge you accordingly as and when you need those units, right? Even if you don't understand the difference between them, let's talk more about these units later, and then the difference would be clear when I talk about it. Okay. Indexes we'll talk about later. There is something called as global secondary indexes, but we'll talk about it later. So let's talk about read capacity units, right? So DynamoDB allows you to query data in 4 KB sizes, right? So one read capacity unit can read a data of 4 KB, right? So basically, your row, which is this is called as item in DynamoDB as well, single item, which is associated with a single partition key. This can grow to 400 KB, right? So this row can itself go to up to 400 KB. That is a limitation of DynamoDB. You cannot have a more than 400 KB item in a DynamoDB, right? But even if you have to read this row, right? Say, assume that if this row was 400 KB, and if I had to read this row, I would have utilized around 400 divided by 4, that is 100 RCU, right? So DynamoDB is not based on the row reading, right? It's not charged based on the number of row you read. It's based on the data you read, right? So here the rows are very less, right? So even if I read 100 rows, since my row is 1 KB each, or maybe less than 1 KB each, right? I would be charged 1 RCU unit only for reading multiple rows. And in cases like when the row size is very big, I can be charged multiple read capacity units, like 100, to even read a single row. So this is something you need to take care in mind when you design DynamoDB, that charges are for 4 KB data read, not for the single row read, right? So how DynamoDB reads, right? So DynamoDB can perform multiple reads, like strongly consistent read, and transactional read, as well as eventually consistent read, right? So what is the difference between all three, right? So let's think of a strongly consistent read as when you have a multi-threaded application or multiple service connecting to the same DynamoDB, right? There is a possibility that two transactions are two different threads, right, are reading the same row and writing to the same row at the same time, right? So strongly consistent means that there would not be an inconsistency when the row is written at the same time, right? You will always get the correct data. That is strongly inconsistent. Eventually, consistent says that there can be a data mismatch in for some time when this kind of race condition occurs, right? And if you are willing to take that risk, you can choose eventual consistency also. Transactional means it's somehow related to relational database, where if you query multiple tables, it will be queried in a transactional way, right? So basically, say if you have two different DynamoDB tables, one is for order service and one is for product service, and somehow these are related using some key, uh, DynamoDB will ensure that both tables are read or write in a transactional way, like RDMS, all or nothing transaction. Uh, uh, it will not let you write on one table whereas data is missing on other table, right? So it will maintain the consistency across the transactions and does not allow you to have some kind of inconsistencies between the transactions. So this is something DynamoDB maintains, right? So for strongly consistent, it you for an item of 4 KB size, uh, you need two RCUs to read a 4 KB. So basically, if you want to read strongly consistent, whatever math we did will be multiplied by 2, right? Whereas if you just want to read eventual consistent, you can read one RCU for 4 KB of data. And eventually for transactional, it is more like you need two RCU to perform to read item up to 4 KB, right? So basically, this is the math, and you based on the consistency you need to decide how much RCU you will need and how much data will be read per RCU. Similarly, goes for WCU. WCU is more costly because one WCU is 1 KB, so it is 4 times costlier than RCU. So if you write to DynamoDB, it will cost you 4 times more typically than read, right? Um, so this is how RCU and WCU are designed, and this is how this kind of it costs you in when you actually create a service and use DynamoDB tables. So now, once our RC and WC is clear, we should see how why DynamoDB is very fast, right? So DynamoDB provides you a single millisecond latency, right? So it provides you single millisecond latency, and you can query data very fast. That means you can query data very fast. Typically, RDMS and other features have hundreds of millisecond latency, right? But DynamoDB latency is within 10 milliseconds or to query the data. And why DynamoDB is fast, we can discuss in later, right? DynamoDB is fast because it stores the data in multiple partitions, right? So think of it that internally DynamoDB stores the data in multiple SSDs in a different partition. So your data in the table is distributed across the partition, and there is a hash function in DynamoDB which converts your primary key and identify which partition can serve that primary key, right, or the partition key. Each partition size is 10 GB, right? So when you query a data using a primary key or partition key, DynamoDB just have to process 10 GB of that partition and get the data for you, and that is why it is very fast and faster than any other RDMS system, which typically manages partitions in a different way, right? So DynamoDB has a 10 GB partitions, and each item is of 400 KB. We discussed that. So item is nothing but this row, right? So this can go to 400 KB, and each partition can hold up to 10 GB of items. That means 10 GB divided by 400 KB is the number of items it can store in a single partition, right? there is some limitation, right, in the partition, and these limitations are very important. I will tell you why. So basically, a single partition can support up to 3,000 RCUs and up to 1,000 WCU, right? So even though your capacity is configured, say with 40,000 RCU units, right? Your service needs it, right? But imagine if all the data on that query is on a single partition, that time there would be limitation in DynamoDB where DynamoDB will only support 3,000 RCU, whereas the service is configured with 40,000 RCUs, right? And that's where this limitation is called as hot partitioning problem. And this is a very important problem in real world, hot partitioning. And I will give you a real world example how it can happen. But we'll discuss about it. This is one of the good problem to discuss why and how it can happen, right? So let's see how these partitions will work, right? So say I have created a table with product ID, right? Product code, which is a very good key, right? Because it's a high cardinality key, right? So every product code, this and this typically would be distributed evenly across each partition, right? So if you have a very high cardinality key like product code, there is a very limited chance that a single query will hit same partition again and again, right? For most of the query for product X, it will hit this partition. For product Y, it will hit this partition, and you will not go with you will not reach the limitation of 3,000 RCU per partition, right? Now let's take example of different table like demo books, right? Here the partition key is author name, right? So and the book version is something which can be sort key, right? So if I add some table like author name is Amit and book version is 1, right? And then again some table, again a row, right? Same author name. Now, since these two keys are same, it will go to same partition. So basically what will happen in this case is Amit will go, all the rows which have same partition key will go to same partition. Now, imagine a situation where we are storing not just the two values, we are also storing a short description about a book, a monologue about a book, or lot of data, right? So imagine these rows increases to a size of 400 KB, right? Every row of Amit, right? So there is a possibility that once you query all the books and each row is having 400 KB size, if you and Amit has released more than 3,000 books, right? You will easily cross 3,000 RCU because 3,000 RCU typically would be 3,000 into 4 KB. Remember 4 KB is 1 RCU size, right? So it is 12,000 KB, which is 12 MB of data. If you query more than 12 MB of data with a key Amit, what will happen is it will hit the same partition, and then DynamoDB will start throwing in errors and saying that uh, uh, it cannot provide the data, or the inconsistency exception DynamoDB will start throwing, and that is where DynamoDB will fail to serve, right? So it is very important that we design our partition key keeping in mind these kind of problems should not happen. So how could have we solved this problem? Anyone has any idea how we could have solved this problem and how we could have converted this table partition key in a better way to avoid these kind of hot partitioning? Anyone would like to brainstorm? Yeah, feel free to give any kind of idea, be it right or wrong, doesn't matter. Let's just see what kind of approach would have solved this problem. What we should have chosen as a primary key to solve this problem. Okay, so let me give some hints, right? So say if an author if we have if we would have appended something like the day in which the book is released, right, along with author name or something to make this key a high cardinality key, we would not have faced the problem of hitting the same partition, and it would have gone with the same author name into a different partition, right? So it could have solved the problem. So what if my key would have been, say, I would have changed this key to also append something like time of day, right? So something like, yeah, so if we could have created a new call attribute here and appended time of day, right, it would have solved us the problem of hot partitioning. So it is very important when you design DynamoDB, make sure the partition key you design is very unique and have a high cardinality, so that it doesn't go to the same partitions every time. And this is one of the key thing to design DynamoDB. Other keys can have low cardinality values, and it doesn't matter on other keys. But on partition key, it makes sense that we should have a very high cardinality partition key. And then sort key can be low cardinality. It is not used to identify the partition. So it is important that we do it this way. Now, uh, now now we talk about the high cardinality partition key, but people will have a question that if we have a very high cardinality partition key, then our access pattern needs to know the key, right? And then how we solve a problem where we need to query this table using some kind of other access pattern like book ID or a person name or something which has many to one to many relationship, right? And typically that kind of problem exists in every kind of DB. Like here in this case, you may want to query data using a vendor name, right, which can have many to one relationship, or you may want to query a data using a status, like ordered or delivered or something which is not part of a primary key, right? DynamoDB solved that problem by creating indexes which are like global secondary indexes. So what you do is you create an index which tells which column you want to index. In this case, we wanted to index vendor name, and you just create um, an index which gives you a GSI. GSI have a separate read capacity unit and write capacity unit, and it has a separate partition altogether. GSI is always eventually consistent. GSI doesn't support a strong consistency. So keep in mind whenever you query using GSI, there may be a data mismatch if some other thread or some other process is writing to the same row in primary table, right? So these are primary key partitions, and GSI partition will be separate, which will be also be 10 GB, but it will be separate in a separate partition altogether. And when you query using data GSI, there can be a possibility that eventual consistency can happen, and that is a race condition possible for GSI, and we need to keep that in mind. And one of the thing in GSI is you can have something called as attributes. Attributes can be projected attributes all or keys only, right? So let's create a keys only attribute. So what is the difference between them? Let's talk about that. So when you say attribute as all, DynamoDB will store all the columns, all the attributes in GSI partition as well. So what it creates a problem is, since you're storing all the attributes, when you read a particular GSI, everything is read and RCU is getting charged. So if my row was 400 KB and I use this GSI, I will get 100 RCU cost when I query this row, right? So to mitigate that issue, what we can do is we can only get an RCU which is important to us, right? With attribute which is important to us. So we can say that status GSI, we only need attributes like product code, vendor name, and status, no other attributes. So in this way, you would know that with GSI, I can only get the data I am interested in, so that I am only charged for these values. So if you put attributes with the GSI, it will only charge for the size of these attributes and the RCU unit based on size of these attributes. So when you design DynamoDB table, you have to make sure in mind how you query the DynamoDB table, and remember it is always charged based on the amount of data queried, and it's always better to design it in a way that you only query the data you need for those indexes, and that optimizes your cost. Any questions so far? Yeah. So once you have done that, you can query the DynamoDB using its GSI indexes. If you want to query the DynamoDB, there are APIs available to query the item and put an item in a DynamoDB and query using a GSI. And those APIs are very much available in AWS site. So you can see how to access the data using Java or Python. It is very much available on querying the data using Python and Java. Typically, what you need to do is you just need to build a DynamoDB client with which region where this DynamoDB is present. US West 1 region is something which is configured based on your account, right? For example, I've created DynamoDB in US East 1 region. So I will query a data on that region, and then you build a DynamoDB client and then get a table which you have created, and you can have a conditional expression which provides a key. In our case, key was product ID, and a value map where you need to know for this key what is a value, right? So for example, we could have mentioned here value as key as product code, a value as XYZ. So we could have queried using Java with this value replaced with XYZ, and product key is replaced with this, right? You can query, and then DynamoDB can return you a iterator or which we can recursively, which you can loop through to get the data, or you also have a batch query items. So do the queries. Sorry, the paginated query result is also possible if you are querying multiple data. Right. So query patterns are simple in DynamoDB based on your keys, and some of the it is simple basically based on the keys or based on the indexes. You don't have much options other than either of these two needs to be present in query pattern. Apart from that, once these values are present, you can use any of the attribute value to filter that, but primary key is absolutely required. Yeah, so other than this, DynamoDB has metrics which you can track whenever you read and write data to the DynamoDB. I have created only 2 items. That's why there's no metric right now. Yeah, there is a very less metric, right? I only consume this much amount of unit, 0.016 of WCU and RCU when I queried it. And when it comes to WCU, it will be even less here. Um, so these are the tables which we can use to query. These are the metrics which you can use to identify RCU and WCU consumed. There is something called as throttle read and throttle write. What happens is throttling can happen whenever you exceed the capacity that you have configured. For example, I have only configured 5 RCU, and if I exceed the capacity of more than 5 RCU, if I don't have an auto scaling enabled or on demand enabled, I would have throttling will happen, and these metrics will show that these many requests are getting throttled because of under configured DynamoDB tables. So this can happen. Yeah, and if you see, there is a global indexes which we create for status and for vendor name. So global indexes have separate RCU and WCU, and they are charged separately. So as many indexes you will create, it will charge you. These are the latencies, and if you see, the latencies are within tens of seconds, millisecond. These latencies are typically given for your each query that you do. You can see this math, identify maximum latency in last hours, last 6 hours. You can increase the period to 1 hour a day, and yeah, here the data is not there because we don't have multiple data points for 1 hour. So like for 15 minutes only, we have 2 data points. So once your service is running in a longer run, you can query higher number of data. I will resume it back to 5 minutes. Yeah, let's take some time for Q&A before we go to any other uh, uh, okay, here we had a question. Even I have not explored DynamoDB for geospatial data, but I believe it can be used. Let's see. So DynamoDB is not like a GraphDB or something, but as long as you have latitude and longitude and you want to create keys from those values, you can store a location data if you want to store. But I have not used DynamoDB specifically for any type of geospatial data in my tenure. Okay, do you have any other question? let's see if we have time available for anything related to on demand.
Any participants having any questions? The certificate will be issued from Atal site. So once we send them the status, the quiz results and attendance, I think they will be in the process of issuing the certificates.
When we will get a link for certificate test, ma'am?
Yeah, that's why I'm saying that will be uploaded in Atal site. It won't be issued from the college.
For us, test link, certificate test link.
Yes, certificates are issued from Atal sites. Test link will be shared around 2:15. Test link will be shared around 2:15. And the timing will be 2:15 to 3 o'clock.
So
Next session will also start from 3 o'clock itself.
Okay, ma'am. So link
I'll be sharing the test link in WhatsApp group also. In WhatsApp group, in fact. I'll be sharing the test link in WhatsApp group only, not here.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you, Mudit sir.
Yeah, thanks for attending.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you so much. And how was your experience?
Yeah, I am in Alexa team, so I'm mainly involved in voice technology and NLU, natural language understanding. We are mainly working on Alexa proactive experiences in Amazon, which is nothing but when you get some kind of notification in Alexa, right, about any of the product delivery or anything, weather alert. This is something which is delivered by my team, and particularly I work in that area. Yeah, so since we use DynamoDB in very frequently in Alexa services, so that's why I have some amount of understanding of DynamoDB. But the experience so far is good with Amazon. You get a lot of things to learn. There are a lot of technology, not a lot of different teams working on a different space. So it's pretty good to work in Amazon.
So there may be quite a number of students from BIT, I think. Some of my students are also working in Amazon there.
Yeah, let me know. I don't know whether there is a BIT Amazon group, but yeah, there would be many students from BIT. Even from my batch, there are a couple of students who are working in Amazon.
So you're 2006 pass out, huh?
Yeah,
2005.
2005 pass out, or yeah, 2005 pass out. Yeah.
Okay, it was really nice interacting you.
Yep.
And I hope all the participants gained a lot of knowledge by interacting with you. Sir, can we get the contents? Actually, the participants generally ask for the contents. So whatever the contents you have, you can share with us, and then we can share with the participants.
Yeah. Let me reformat it so that it understands. Since
Sure, no issues.
And I will send it.
No hurry at all.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mudit sir.
Okay. Thanks, everyone. Good luck and enjoy your weekend.
Thanks,
you.
Mudit sir. Thanks for accepting our invitation.
Hey, how are you? Thanks, man. Good to see you after a long time.
Thanks.
Yeah, no problem. Cool. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Thank you so much. Yeah, sir.
Yeah, ma'am, you are sharing the test link in both the WhatsApp group and this particular chat box also.
Sir, I'll be sharing only on WhatsApp group.
Okay, only on
because
WhatsApp.
Yes, sir, only on WhatsApp. Because the link will be closed now. The meet link will be closed. We'll be gathering here at 3 o'clock for next session.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much, everyone. So, attendance link I have shared, I think, already. Here's the attendance link. I'm sharing it once again. You all can fill the attendance.
Test time, madam?
So, test time will be from 2:15.
2:15?
Yes, sir. As per the request, we are increasing 15 minutes time. Earlier we were about to share at 2:30, but now we'll be
15
sharing
minutes.
it by 2:15.
Okay, okay.
So all the
How
best
many
for your
questions,
test.
madam?
So there will be around 40
Hello?
questions.
How many questions?
Yes, I said there will be around 30
30
questions.
questions.
30 questions,
Madam,
45 minutes
30
of time.
questions.
45 minutes
Okay,
of
okay.
time, sir.
30 questions, 40 minutes.
Yes, sir.
Okay, okay, okay.
Okay. So thank you, everyone. We'll be gathering here at 3 o'clock. Thank you so much. Partha sir, can we close the meet now? Thank you, everyone, once again. I think Partha sir is in a meeting.
Yes, ma'am. I've just come from the meeting.
Okay, sir. So can we close the meet here? And we'll be gathering here
Yes.
at 3 o'clock. The test
Yeah,
link will be
hopefully
shared in
all-
WhatsApp group.
Hopefully, all have filled up the attendance and feedback link for this session. If all have filled up, then we can close this meeting. So I'll wait for 5 minutes, then I will close the meeting if there is no problem with you from your side.
Hello, sir.